looking out, and I can see the sea of lights, the sea of souls that are just billions and trillions of them. They're just everywhere, and they've all got their own unique colors, and the colors are changing at the same time, and they're all different, but they're all one still. They're all in perfect harmony together, and the view was just out of this world, literally out of this world.
Hi, and welcome back to the Natalie Rustic podcast. Today's guest is Jacob King, who today will be sharing his near-death experience. But first, I wanted to give a warm shout out to Tara Leavitt for kindly recommending him to the podcast today. And I also want to thank you, Tara, for your amazing friendship. And in this video, Jacob will be sharing with you how he and God dived into a sea of stars together and how he's never felt love the way he felt love on the other side. So without further ado, I welcome you, Jacob King.
Hey, I'm Jacob King. Had an NDE in late 2021. It really changed my life, and the first year after the NDE was a very tough period of integration. And lately I've been speaking about this NDE on different podcasts and that's been a part of my integration. What happened to me was I was going through a very dark period of depression, and I was spending a lot of time at home more than usual, and my drug use was starting to increase. I'd been dealing with drug addiction for a while, but more with soft drugs before, and started getting a little bit harder as the pain got deeper. And I was always a spiritual seeker before. I was always trying out different religions and different meditation techniques and this and that. But I got to a point where basically I'd given up, and I thought that was dumb. I wasted a lot of time doing the spiritual thing, and there was no hope for me. I'm just a drug addict, and I'm going to end up homeless and dying young, and that's it. I'm just a victim of my circumstances. I had a terrible childhood and a terrible adulthood, and that's it. That's all it was, and that's all it was ever going to be. And I gave up. And within a few days of me being in that frame of mind, I had a drug overdose and left my body. And I was in some dark area. I was in a void, and this very warm and very loving, very soothing, extremely powerful energy came into the room with me, into this void, and I welcomed it, and I felt this energy embracing me, coming around me, holding me, and it was so beautiful, and it felt like a key to my inner lock. It was just the perfect thing. Everything I've been looking for on earth, it was this is what I wanted. Every time I had a girlfriend, or I tried a drug, or I thought I was going to do this, I'm going to do that, all these goals I had, everything I was doing on earth, this is the feeling I was actually looking to get from it, and now I had it, and I was like, oh, this is the one. And I remember feeling like I know this energy from somewhere. I've encountered it before. It's very familiar to me. I mean, that's how I know that this is what I was looking for. But I don't remember ever being around it. Like, where is this energy from? And I started scanning through my life. And I scanned through my life in the blink of an eye, real quick. And I didn't see it anywhere. I couldn't find this energy in my life, but I was able to scan back further, and I found it before I was born. And then I realized that I was in the presence of God. This was God's energy. And God's energy is so incredibly powerful. It was like all the universes are all running on this energy. This is the energy that gives life to all things, all beings. Everything in existence has this energy within it. And it was all contained concentrated within this one being who was holding me and hugging me. And it was amazing. You can't comprehend that level of power. And the power was love. It was a loving energy, but it was a powerful love. See, on earth, when we talk about love, we think, oh, it's like a vulnerable, fluffy kind of feeling, you know. No, this was power. This was real power. This love was so strong that it was intimidating. And I didn't know whether to be scared or to fall in love with it. It was like 50-50. I had a choice to make. Do you want to be scared, or do you want to go with it and fall into the love? Now, me being the addict that I was, you know, I want to feel good. So, all right, I'll fall into the love, you know. It was easy. And I fell into its love, even though it was so incredibly powerful. I felt like I was going to dissolve into the love. If you've ever hugged somebody that you love very deeply, and you know, when you feel like you can just melt into their arms, imagine that, but multiply it over and over and over again. There's a point where you're actually going to dissolve. You really are going to just dissolve in that love. That's how strong it was. And when I chose to fall into the love of this being, I was taken out of the void, and I was in this new dimension. And this new dimension was very much like space. I don't think I was physically in space, but maybe it's like space in another dimension, another part of space far away from Earth. I don't know what it was, but it was quite a lot like space. And the difference was that the stars I was seeing were conscious and they were alive, and they were very close to me. So, you know, obviously, like, it's not quite, I shouldn't call them stars. They weren't stars. They looked like stars, but they were souls, you know. And these souls were like little lights, and with different colors in them, and the colors were changing constantly and dynamic. And there were millions, if not billions, of them everywhere that I could see. And I was seeing colors that I had never seen before. And these souls, they're definitely alive, they're definitely conscious, but they're also, it's not like they're moving around and doing their own thing. They're just completely at peace, just being there. Just like, imagine like when you're at the beach on a hot day and you're just happy just being in there, you know, soaking up the sun. It was kind of like that. Just, they were just cool being there. And I was looking at it all and I was like, man, this looks amazing. Like, wow. And there was so much love in this place. It was just like, it'll blow your mind how much love there was, you know, and how good it felt. Like, this is the exact kind of love you want, you know. That's
Can I
you can't
just
really.
pause for 2 seconds and ask you something?
Yeah, okay.
So, just watching you describe the amount of love that you felt, some people say that it was orgasmic in nature. Would you
Yeah,
say it was similar?
yes, that's what
Okay.
I'm trying to say. Like, when I say it's exactly what you want, it's like, you know, when you're with a partner and even if they're good, it's very rare that they do exactly what you want. You know,
Mm,
if they're good, they'll get close to exactly like that mind reading ability of exactly what you're feeling. But yeah, orgasmic is the word.
yeah.
But you know, orgasms don't. I mean, for women it lasts longer than for men. But you know, it was constant. You know,
Wow.
it's constant, and it's 100 times better than anything you'll ever experience on Earth. You know. But yeah, that's the word for it, really. And as I'm feeling this, and I'm there, and God takes me, and he takes all the souls and he's gathering them up. And have you ever seen when Buddhists make a sand mandala? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, yeah.
So for those who don't know, a sand mandala is like a beautiful image that the Buddhists make. They'll make it with sand. They'll actually create the image with all this colored sand, and then once they're done with it, they wipe it out to teach about non-attachment. And I was watching this in action. God was actually creating something like mandalas, but like just beautiful art pieces with all these souls. And then he would make it, and it was so incredible, the artwork, that I felt like I was going to die from the astonishment of what I was seeing. You know, it was just too intense. Like, how can something possibly be that beautiful? It knocked me off my feet, you know? And I couldn't believe it. And then he would just wipe it out, and I was like, oh. And then I could breathe. And then he would create another one, and I was like, oh my God, like wipe it, and it kept going. And God was enjoying my reactions, you know. And God was sort of telling me, like, it's okay, you relax, like you'll be fine. Enjoy this. Like, I'm giving you this service. I'm putting on a show for you. I want you to enjoy it. And you know, it kind of reminds me of, I don't know, like a parent playing with their child. You know, you play peekaboo with the child, and the child laughs and goes, "Oh my God, how'd you do that?" And it's just this interaction where something so simple for the parent, but the parent is just enjoying giving that service to the child and making the child happy, and making them laugh, you know? It was very much like that. And, you know, and then after this happened a few times, and then he's like, all right, cool, let's go. And when I say God, I say he, but God is not he or a she. It's just easier for me to say he. God transcends gender and all that. I'm just not going to call God it. But anyway, so God takes me, and we're flying now through space. We're flying together, and it's fun. And you know, first we're going easy, and then it's getting faster and faster. And as we're flying, I'm flying past all these souls, and I'm taking in their beauty, each one of them, you know. And as I'm flying past them, there's like a brief sort of vibrational interaction between us as we, you know, I don't know how to describe that. There's definitely an interaction with each one just as I'm flying past them. And it's beautiful, and I'm absorbing their beauty. And as I'm flying through this space, I'm flying through love. The love is physical, and all of it's orgasmic at the same time, as you were saying. And the speed is increasing and increasing and increasing. And as it's increasing, I'm absorbing more and more and more and more. And you can imagine just how overloaded this is. I'm getting to a point now where I'm feeling like unstable, like I'm gonna burst from how overwhelming this is. And I'm starting to feel like if I burst, I'm gonna die, because I still feel like I'm in a human body. And I'm telling God, oh God, I'm starting to worry. I'm starting to get a bit like this is a bit much, God. And then it's like, all right, we'll stop. And we stopped in front of this giant tower. It was like a giant skyscraper. And this tower is made out of the same colors, lights as the rest of the souls. You know, it's the whole thing is made out of light, and it's just changing, and it's beautiful to look at. Like, this tower is amazing, you know. And I go and I look up at the top, and I can't see the top of this tower because it's so high and so tall. And God is with me. And God, by the way, in my experience, God was invisible, but he may as well have been visible, because you knew exactly where God was the whole time. The power coming off is so strong, you know. And God says, we're going to go to the top. And I say, all right, let's go. We just start flying up the side of this tower. We're going towards the top. And the same thing is happening again, where the speed is increasing and increasing, and I'm absorbing all the love, and it's getting really intense. But now I'm getting further towards my breaking point, and I thought I was going to die. I felt like like everything was just going to burst within me. It was happening, and I thought, that's it. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Oh, I got to the top. We were at the top of the tower, and I'm checking myself. Oh, I'm still alive. Oh, I'm still together. Everything's still intact. Thank God. That was good. And I was kind of confused a bit. Like, I didn't know how I ended up here, or you know, it's a lot like when you fall asleep and you go into a dream. You didn't remember falling asleep. You just were in a dream, and you were just there, and you were just doing your thing in that dream with no thought of what happened before. It was exactly like that, you know? And I started to feel like something's weird about this. Like, is everyone in this dimension going through the same thing I'm going through? Was I wrong to be scared about, like, nearly dying? If I did die, yeah, would I, like, these questions came up. Do I have anything to fear in this place? That crossed my mind for a little bit, but I was just like, whatever, I'm having a good time. This is fun, so I'm just gonna keep going. And I walked to the edge of this skyscraper that I'm now on, and I'm looking out, and I can see the sea of lights, the sea of souls that are just billions and trillions of them. They're just everywhere, and they've all got their own unique colors, and the colors are changing at the same time, and they're all different, but they're all one still. They're all in perfect harmony together, and the view was just out of this world. I mean, literally out of this world. And I was just taking it all in, and I can feel God next to me, and God is just letting me sort of catch my breath, regain my composure. He's just so calm. God is so calm. And it's hard to fathom how somebody so powerful and so loving can also be completely calm. Like, completely. And just like, you take your time, I accept, however long you need, but I could feel within his vibration, there's like a telepathy within the vibration, I can sense exactly what God's intentions are next with me, and that was to jump off of this tower and fly through this sea of lights that were in front of me. And when I realized that that's what was going to happen next, I became I knew I was going to die for sure, because there was a lot more of that than there was of this tower, And I said, all right, God, hold on a second. Before we do that, I nearly died coming up this tower, and now you want me to fly through this sea of lights? I'm going to die for sure. For sure I'm going to die. And God said, yes. I was like, what? I'm thinking in my head, like, I thought you were going to say, no, you're not going to die, you'll be fine, you'll be all right. And he said, yes. And that's it, just yes. Like, hold on a minute. And then I had to think about it. And I said, all right, well, if God was so loving, so powerful, so kind, so calm, all these things, and clearly he has my best interests at heart. And so if he says, yeah, jump off this tower to your death, like, it'll be a good thing, all right, I'll do it. Like, I trust you. I trust you more than I trust myself. And if you were going to do something bad to me, you already would have done it. So, you know what I mean? And when you're in the presence of something like that, when you're in the presence of God, like, you feel the wisdom. He can tell you to do anything and you do it, because the wisdom is just incredible, So I said, all right, let's do it. And I really thought, that's it, like, I'm going to die, but something good's going to come after that, for sure. I know that. And so he picked me up in his hand like I was a paper airplane, and he just gently threw me, and I was just gliding down this tower into the sea of lights. And it was easy, and it was nice, and it was beautiful. Every interaction with every soul that I flew past, there was a vibration of love that I absorbed from every single one of them, and their beauty was astounding, and I'm experiencing it all at the same time. And we're flying faster and faster and faster, and I'm absorbing more and more love and more beauty, and it's going faster and faster, and now I'm getting to my breaking point again, and I'm thinking, oh, this is scary. I feel like I'm going to die, but that's the whole point of this, is for me to die. So I accept. All right, let's do it. And as the speed got faster and faster, I felt the skin on my face pull off, and then the bones were coming off, and the muscles were coming off, and every layer of my human identity was coming off, and every layer that came off, it felt like I was taking off a tight shoe. There was no pain. It was beautiful. Every layer that came off made me feel better and better and better. And within every layer was all the trauma that I had experienced growing up. So for the first time in my life, I felt like I was not a traumatized person. I was no longer in pain. I was no longer had this thing in me that was like, I was content within myself when the layers came off for the first time. And I was like, oh, this is what it's like to feel healed, to feel at peace. And I was like, cool, let all the layers come off. And every layer came off until I got down to the final one. Now I'm still flying at the speed of light, but now I'm at peace. And I just thought, well, there's only one layer left now, and when that layer is gone, I'm done. There's nothing left, and I will cease to exist. And I was waiting for it, and I just kept flying, and nothing happened. This layer wouldn't dissolve. And I was like, why is this layer not dissolving? What is this layer? This is weird. Something gone wrong, or like, what's going on here? And then God stopped me from flying, and he picked me up, and I was like a little grain of sand in God's hand. I was tiny, and he started to show me what he was looking at from his point of view. And what he was looking at was like a small little white light. And this was like the light of my soul, and he was like, no matter what you've been through, everything you've gone through, everything you will go through, all this stuff is temporary. All of it will fade away. This is who you really are. This is eternal. Remember this. And then he rolled me out of his hand like rolling a small little marble. And then I joined in with the rest of the sea of lights. Then I merged with them, and we became one being. And there was no sense of self anymore. There was no ego. There was no separation. I merged with the infinite. I became one with everything. And it was the most beautiful and peaceful and blissful experience that anybody can ever have. It was the height of what existence is all about. And this felt like home. I'd been here before. This is where I originally came from. And now I was back here again, and I didn't need another thing. You could have kept me there for eternity, and I would have been more than happy to stay. And I stayed there for however long I stayed, and eventually God picked me back up out of that ocean, and he showed me an image of this body here that I'm now in, and it was back on earth, and it was passed out. And then God said, you have to go back to that. I thought, okay. I started to remember that I used to be that guy. I used to think that I was that guy. I used to think I was a human. Clearly I'm not. But when I go back to being a human, the human is going to have questions. Like, I can't go back there without having his questions answered. So, can I ask you some questions? And he said, yeah. I started to think like the human again. And the human wanted to ask, how can I go from experiencing that to going back to Earth, and dealing with that contrast is too much? How could I possibly do that? And then God just said, it's okay. He was speaking to the human. As he's speaking to the human, he's saying, it's okay. Saying that I don't judge you. I don't judge you for what you've been through, for what you've turned into, all the sin, all the mistakes, all of that. That's okay. It's okay. You have nothing to fear. And I said, all right, but I'm going to want to tell everyone about this place. Like, I'd heard about heaven, but when you're in heaven, it's different. It's so intense here, and the love, and like I have to tell everyone about this, but they're not gonna believe me. They're gonna think I'm nuts. And then I thought about my cousins and my close mates, and I brought up their names and I named them one by one, and I said, "Can you give them this love? Like what I'm experiencing now, if you give them this love, then they'll believe me, and like that'll be good. Like, can we do that?" And God said, "Well, that's what you're there for." I said,
Wow.
"What?" I mean, yeah, you might say, "Wow, man, I didn't like that answer." I was like, "I can't possibly give them this love. That's no way. This love is too much. How am I supposed to give them this love?" And you say, "You can ask me for help. You can ask for help to become an outlet for this love." Oh, no, become an outlet. Okay. And I had like a big shift within me at that moment, because I'd realized that on earth, I was always doing everything with my ego and trying to produce goodness, trying to make it happen, trying to force it, and then giving up when it didn't work and then complain, that whole. He said, "No, just ask me and it'll flow through you. Be an outlet." I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. I'll do that." And then I thought of what's going to happen when I go to Earth and I'm back in the Earth vibration, and then I'm just going to get lost in the illusion again. And I thought, but God, when I go back there, it's not going to be that easy. Like, I'm going to go back to being a human, and I'm going to get lost in my drug addiction again. And I really don't want to lose touch with you again. And God said, "I am you." I was like, "What? How can you possibly say you are me?"
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as well as hit that subscribe button, as it does help my channel grow and also helps these videos to get out there further. So I appreciate you, and now back to the video.
"You're too powerful to be me. You can't possibly be me." How? I'm saying this, but at the same time, I know God knows everything. So when God says, "I am you," I have to take him at his word. It was easier for me to jump off that tower into my death. I could trust him more with that than for him to tell me that he is me. And he said, "I am you," and I couldn't accept it. And I was waiting, like, you got to explain this one to me. And I was just waited, and then out of the center of my forehead, a giant golden eye shot out, and it was beautiful. This golden eye, and it was huge, and it was looking back at me. And I'm thinking, is this my eye looking at me, or is this God's eye looking at me through me? It's coming out of me. What is this? I don't even know what's what anymore. And then God said, "I am viewing your life through you as you. You and I are one." And then he sent me back. That was my experience.
Thank you so much, Jacob, for sharing that. That was absolutely incredible. And if you don't mind, I do have a few questions that I'd like to ask. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
So I do need to ask this question. How do you decipher whether this experience that you had wasn't something that was drug induced? And can you explain, if possible, the difference between the two?
I'd taken these drugs before, and I never thought I was talking to God or anything like that. I tried it again a couple of times, really tried to induce that experience because I was desperate to go back there. And I couldn't, and it ruined me. It ruined me for the first year after my NDE, because I so desperately wanted to go back there more than anything. If it was drugs, I'd still be on drugs now. And not only that, there'd be a lot more people who have had this experience, because there are a lot of drug addicts out there. Now, obviously I did take drugs, yeah, and what happened, yes, but there's always going to be some cause for the effect, and I think more than it being a drug induced thing, it was an acceptance induced thing, because before my NDE, I had accepted myself as I was for the first time and wasn't trying to change myself, and I gave up on trying to change myself. So that was why I think that I had this experience, because I'd reached that point of, all right, I gave up on my ego. That I didn't know that there was something beneath the ego that I could really get in tune with, and that's what God was showing me. So I feel like that was the reason for this experience. It was almost like, you could say, instead of a near-death experience, this was a near-death education.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. Not that I learned straight away. It wasn't like I got back to earth and it was all sunshine and rainbows. It was very difficult. But yeah, as I said, like, if this was just a drug-induced thing, like, it would be pretty common. And I know a lot of people have taken the drugs I've taken and they haven't had anything like this before. So yeah.
Another question I have, actually, it's a really good one. When you did come back into your body after experiencing all that you experienced, did it feel claustrophobic to you? Like your expansive self was now just kind of stuffed in this human flesh? What was that like?
It felt confusing because I could feel there was all this sort of energy around me and I didn't know what was what. And yeah, I felt like I was in a flesh prison, but I was too bewildered by too many things to only be focused on that. I was trying to figure out still, what did God mean by I am you and being an outlet. Like, there was a whole host of changes that I was going to go through, and just feeling like I was stuck in a flesh prison was just one of them. Not only that, Earth looked very strange when I got back, because this is like a dream that we're in here. And it didn't seem like that to me before, but it seemed like that after, when I got back. Like, the colors here are so dull and everything's very muted here and slow and dense, and like, this isn't real, or at least this is not really where we're from originally, so it doesn't feel real to me. It's like, I really give a lot of credence to simulation theory and that kind of thing now, because when you've been there on the other side, you'll know what real is.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because the majority of near-death experiences who have said that it's more real there than it is here. And not only that, they also, and is this your belief too, what I'm about to say, that we are spirit living in a human body in a simulation? So would you agree with that as well?
100%. But that doesn't mean that just because you come to that realization, whether you experience it or whether you believe it theoretically, doesn't mean that it should change how you go about things. There is still a reason why we're here. Like, we're here to experience that, and we should go along with it. I have to take care of my body. I have to eat healthy. I have to do these things and live as a human and really, really do it. But there is something deeper. There is. But you got to master being a human. So don't fight against the simulation that you're in.
Yeah, very good. Very well said. So who were you able to talk about this to when you first came back? Was it easy for you to talk to family and close friends about this experience?
No, I didn't speak to many people about it. I briefly mentioned something to my cousin. I was like, hey, I just said to him that I had an out-of-body experience. And then he was just like, yeah, I don't care. God's done things with me too, all right? And I was just like, okay, I can't talk to him about it. And then I had a couple of friends that I spoke to about it. One of them, he didn't really say anything. He's just like, oh, he goes like, oh, it's interesting that you remembered all that. May as well have said nothing. I think he was just being polite. And then the other guy was just like, bro, you just took drugs and you had a drug trip. Like, that's it. And when I got shut down like that was hard. That was really hard to deal with, because I was in such a raw and vulnerable state, and I knew what I had experienced was real. It would have been easier if it was just drugs, but my life was so destabilized after, like it completely, like, things had shifted within me, and that's not easy to deal with. And getting
Mm.
shut down like that was not cool. I did actually, I forgot, I did actually have another friend. Her mum had two NDEs, and she was interested in it. So I spoke to her about it, and she was like, "Yeah, it sounds like you had an NDE, but because I was struggling to integrate it, and I'd gone back into the drugs and alcohol, and then she judged me, and she was like, "There's no way you had an NDE, and then you went back into drugs. Like you should be like,
Mm.
enlightened and stuff after that." And so
And
she
it's
shut me
very
down.
interesting that you point that out because there is also near death experiences that unfortunately tried to commit suicide just to get back to that place. So that's just sort of another kind of idea as to why people do sometimes go back to drugs to try and get back to that state because it's almost like they're homesick. Yeah.
It's exactly what it was. And to be honest, like for like the first 6 months when I got back, I was very unstable, but like I was crying every day and really crying here, not just a little bit, like bawling my eyes out. And sometimes it was with joy and bliss from the experience and the residual effects from that, but also from longing and anguish and wanting to be back. And sometimes I was experiencing both of those things at the same time. And it was very, very difficult. And I got sober for a little bit afterwards, but then, I went back in because I wanted to go back there. I was so
Mm.
desperate to go back. It's all I could think about. It was dominating my mind. And when that failed and the drugs weren't working and I wasn't even enjoying the drugs anymore, um, I really went into a very dark depression, very, very dark. And, I was feeling very suicidal after. But the reason I didn't attempt suicide, even though I really wanted to, was because I thought there has to be a reason that I went through this, that I experienced this, and that there has to be some sort of shift that is underway right now. And I kept remembering the image of me flying through this sea of lights and this
Mm.
and all the layers of my human identity coming off. And the message I kept feeling that I was receiving from the other side was that this is what you are experiencing now on Earth. But on Earth, when you're actually in the physical body and everything, it's hard to deal with. But basically, like, you can't have an experience like that and then come back to Earth and enjoy it. Like, what has Earth got to offer you after an experience like that?
Mm.
What are you gonna
Yeah.
do? Even even making love to a woman was not half as, it was not even 1% as thrilling as it was being on the other side. So what have I got now? I got nothing. So it was difficult to deal with, and I was left with only one choice. One option was to learn how to connect with God's energy within. And that was the only thing that saved me.
Can I ask how you are now in life throughout this experience? Are you also, can I ask, do you receive downloads or have any sort of newfound abilities as a result of your near death experience as well?
Yeah, so right now I have shed a lot of the past identities and the past egos and that. Not all of it. I've still got a lot of work to do. I'm very, very early on, but I've been able to shed enough that it's easy for me to connect with the divine vibration within me, which is within everybody. Everybody's got this divine spark,
Mm.
but it's got too many layers of ego on top of it for us to really be able to connect with it very easily. But I've managed to do enough work that I can get back there, and I'm glad I did because my sanity depended on me finding that. And so that's been a real godsend for me, and I'm living from that place now. Um, I had abilities before this experience, but all those abilities were basically supercharged. So things like, a little bit of psychic medium ability, I did have that before. Now I have more. Um, and things like this. But those things, I feel like I don't focus on them because they're not important to me. What's important to me is being able to stay within that vibration. Again, that's where my sanity is dependent on.
Mm.
Um, and so I always have to learn. I had to learn the hard way how to stay in that place. And then I learned that, okay, like when I judge people or when I'm hateful to people or any of these things, I lose that vibration. And I realized after a while, it's like, oh, these are the things that all the religions call sin. When I sin, I lose touch with that vibration.
Mm.
So I'm not doing things because I'm not doing it because I'm not allowed to or I'm allowed to. No. I'm just in tune with that, and I'm trying to live from that place, because when I do the wrong thing and I lose touch with it, I'm back in that PTSD, that damaged ego and all that. I'm right back there, and I don't like being there. So it's very easy for me to stay in that place and to reject everything that keeps me away from that.
Is there any tips you would be able to share with the viewers watching today, how you do let go of the ego self, the ego mind, in order to start that healing process within themselves?
Everybody's on their own unique journey, and while everyone's journey is unique to them, there are some things that count for all of us, and one of them is to be here now. It sounds simple, but it's very profound when you actually do it. When you really sink into the present moment, you cannot be lost in your thoughts. The ego lives in the past and the future. It's always thinking, oh, look at those bad things that happened to me in the past, or look at all these good things I can do in the future. When I get there, then I'll be happy. That's what the ego does. Or the ego does something like, I want to look like this, so I come across like that. It's always taking place in time, right? But when you're on the other side, there is no time. So you want to bring the other side here, where there is no time. Here now, there is no time. The present moment is eternal. You cannot think about the present moment. You can only observe it. So I would say observe. Do not judge. As soon as you judge, you're back in your ego. You're dealing with past and future. You're judging what somebody did or what somebody will do. That doesn't work. You start to figure it out. So if you can enter that place of timelessness, you enter into a magical space within you. And in that place of timelessness, you experience peace. You experience love. You experience all these things. And sometimes it can be difficult at the start when you're not used to being in that place. But when you start to understand how to get there, it gets a little easier and a little easier. And then things start getting pretty magical in life. And it's very possible for all of us to do it. But you have to want to, and you have to be willing to sacrifice all those bad habits and all that along the way. And bit by bit, you don't have to do it overnight. We're all on a journey here. I'm still on my journey. I've got people in front of me who are helping me along the path, and I've got people behind me who I'm helping. And we're all helping each other to progress through this, so it's very possible. That's the main thing.
Thank you so much for that. That was absolutely incredible. I was going to ask you if you'd be able to leave the viewers with a positive note before we go, but I think you just did that. If there is anything extra you would like to leave before we go.
No matter what we go through, no matter what, learn to be loving to others. Not just when it's convenient for you or when you feel like it, but everything we do for others is something we're doing to ourselves. There is the divine spark in you, is the divine spark in me, is the divine spark in everyone. And we want to spread this love around. It doesn't matter about magical abilities, whether you're psychic, whether you can enter the present moment, this, that. You can be loving to other people. You can. And when you're loving to others, you're loving to yourself. It helps everybody. So love is the main thing. Above all else, love is what this universe runs on. And you want to get in touch with that energy, get in touch with the love, give it to others. And above all else, ask God for help to be an outlet for that love. And we can all do it.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Jacob, for sharing your near-death experience with us and your wise words from above. It's been a pleasure having you today, and thank you. Thank you. All right, take care, Jacob.
Right now.